Hey, good day, it's Mike from Flex, and I've done all these videos, but I finally realized I didn't have a video that, if you were a brand new user and you came to the site, and why do I really want a Flex, and what makes it different? And I'm going to send this out to you as a ham. I've been a ham since '74. I've been in all sorts of different parts of the hobby because they're all so amazing. And the hobby just has the ability to do that, whether you're doing moon mounts, satellite, DXing, you're working in contests, or you're tinkering in contests, or you just love the integration, or you just want to rag chew, and this radio does it all. But when I came out years ago, I quickly realized the writing on the wall that what happens between the antenna and the speaker, or the decoder for digital mode, doesn't really matter to me. It's how it gets from one way to the other. Up until the superhet design, we either had to deal with tubes, okay, I'm really dating myself, but semiconductors. Once we got into the technology of software-defined RF equipment, and that includes your cell phone, which is a software-defined radio, it got a lot easier to manufacture radios, and better radios. And you weren't locked into one type of radio that was old the minute it was shipped. And I'm going to pick on the 756 Pro series. There was a Pro, the Pro 2, and the Pro 3, and if you wanted to upgrade, you had to go buy a new radio. You had to sell your old radio or trade it in, try to get as much money for you. Of course, that dropped the minute the next new radio was shipped because, or released, because everybody wanted the new radio, and that meant the older radio was worth less. And that sort of goes away in the newer technologies of software defined. Let's pick up your Android phone or your iPhone or something like that. They come up with a new update, you get new features, and you don't have to go out and buy the latest flip phone. So that's where the software-defined technology really comes from. It doesn't make the radio any different. We still use it the same way. It's got a push-to-talk switch. We still plug a microphone in. And if we're into a digital mode operation, we still need some sort of interface. The advantage of the Flex stuff, of course, is the interface comes with the radio. You don't have to go out and buy a Rig Expert or a Signal Link or Tigertronics or some other device like that. So as a ham, I've had and owned all this stuff, and my benches or my shelves are getting, less populated because I have less of this stuff, but I have more functionality with my radio. So I never thought I'd be able to, for $2,000 US, be able to own a radio that has the performance of something like the FT1000D when it came out, or any other radio for that matter that was top of the line. The Flex 6400 at, as I said, $19.99 US and free shipping, and yeah, it's a bit of a commercial because this is who I'm doing the presentation for, but it's an amazing radio. It is the quietest radio I've ever used. It's easier to listen to. It's no different than any other radio I've owned today, but it is different because maybe you've changed brands one day, and you went from Kenwood to ICOM, and you knew the functionality was there, you just didn't know where it was. So if you wanted to change the filters on your radio before you had to find the filter button, well, you still have to find the filter button. It's in a different place. Advantage of filters, there's no extra filters. You get these brick wall filters that, unlike any other HF rig you've ordered in the past, you had to decide, geez, do I want a 500 Hz CW filter or a 300 Hz CW filter? Did I want a 1.8 kilohertz SSB filter or 2.7? But geez, sometimes I listen to AM broadcast and I want 6 kilohertz wide filter for AM broadcast. And it was a real struggle. You usually ended up with multiple radios. Today you don't. You end up with one radio that can do it all. And then highly customize it if you want, or just use it like any radio you've used in the past, where when you go to a frequency, you set the settings you like, and maybe you memorize it or something. So that's what took me down the Flex radio line. I didn't have to keep shelling out more expensive dollars for more options. It was all included for $19.99, and that's a 2-receiver radio. Let me talk about the receivers too. And any radio I've had that's had a sub-receiver, it was a sub-receiver. It was sort of cool, but I never really leveraged it like I would before because it was a sub-receiver. It was just handy to have. Flex changed that technology. They created all these receivers, and they were all unique receivers. They're all like having multiple different radios on your desktop or on a Maestro or something like that. And then, instead of having to say you got something all set up in the sub-receiver you liked, you then had to, oh, I want to use that in the main receiver. Maybe you want to call the guy. You had to figure out a way to transfer it over, and maybe it worked great or maybe it didn't. But in a Flex radio, you just move the transmitter. There is no sub-receiver. They're all primary receivers, and that allows you to just transmit on whatever one you want, A, B, C, D, E, F, or we call them slices. A slice being a slice of the radio spectrum. So that's the only difference from the radio. And then they came up with an advanced model that had 2 spectral capture units. Well, what the heck is a spectral capture unit? Well, if you're not familiar with it, that's where the antenna connects. And that's where we look at the entire HF radio spectrum at once. And some radios have 1 and some have 2. And the 6600 and the 6700 series have 2 spectral capture units. That means you can use 2 complete antenna systems at the same time. That means you could be listening to a net on 80 while you're actually making 6-meter contacts on MSK 144 or FT8 or 20 meters or some other band, assuming you've got 2 different antennas. And there's a lot of combinations in there, so don't just limit your ideas to what I say. You've got to sort of explore it, or please call us and we can help you explain how you can expand and make more use of your antenna system without building more antennas. And because you could share the spectrum, it's really cool, and it's really allows you to grow, and it's not really limited to 1 receiver, 1 frequency, 1 antenna. The other thing is radio is built from the ground up to plug into your home LAN, internet, whatever you want to call it. But what that makes it good for is the ability to share some information around. So, and this is why you don't need sound card devices like the ones I mentioned earlier, because they're built into the software. And we have videos rather that'll show you how to set that up, or even you can do a walkthrough of that. So, wow, that's like more equipment I don't have to worry about RF getting into. More audio that's easier to align. And that makes the radio really an advantage and a very powerful tool. And you don't have to do all that if you don't want to. If you're just a rag chewer, you can turn it on. You can go on 40 meters, dial up your frequency, hook up your microphone or microphones and flip back and forth. Maybe you've got 6 or 7 different microphones and you like them all depending on what you're doing. You can save we call them profiles, but you can save the shaping on that as you switch microphones. And we've got multiple microphone inputs, so it's easy to flip back and forth. So as a ham, I saw this ability to grow or not, depending how complicated I wanted to make my station, or how integrated, or automated. I love the automation. It doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means it's there for me to play with. I think Flex has also done an amazing job of taking something that's incredibly complex and making it incredibly simple. We've got this wonderful community of, social networking called ham radio. So if you can't figure it out, you can get on the air and ask. You can phone us. We have a great Flex community with some wonderful people who've probably already done it before. So you're probably not the first person to go down a problem trying to solve it. God, I don't know how we did it in the 70s, how we figured out antennas, if it wasn't for a club or someone else that learned through the School of Hard Knocks, or we bought a lot of books from the RSGB or ARRL, and that was really helpful. But today with the interweb, we have this ability to grab information pretty much anywhere. Now let me tell you a bit more about the company. Flex is designed and built in Austin, Texas, and by hams and by guys who just love the hobby. Our Chief Technical Officer, Steve Hicks, is an amazing microwave weak signal guy, and a lot of the plugins on the back of the radio are things that he added in the design of the radio in working with Gerald that allowed those type of operators, whether you're into moon bounce or 2-meter weak signal or 1.2 gig weak signal or 25 gigahertz weak signal, to make use of the transverter ports on the back of the radio and to easily set your power levels. So he thought about that. And there's sequencers in the radio. Now, most HF operators don't know what a sequencer is, but if you're a weak signal guy with preamps and amplifiers and different stuff, you know what a sequencer is. So that's already built in. You don't have to buy it. The ability to have, we have 3 push-to-talk ports on the back of the radio, so you can control 3 different amplifiers. What if you have an HF amp that stops at 10 and you've got a 6-meter amp? Those are different push-to-talk lines. In the past, if I'd had that problem, I probably would have had a switch that switched the push-to-talk line back and forth. You don't have to do that. Also on the back of the radio, you can add a simple RS-232 or device that sends Kenwood cat data. That's frequency data directly to an amplifier. It doesn't have to be our amplifier. It could be a lot of external amplifiers. This way your amplifier will band track. Or maybe you have a tuning device that listens to Kenwood cat data. Or bandpass filters or something like that. And we've got a couple different modes out of that, but very customizable. And in the past, if you wanted to sort of automate your station, you had to run it through another computer, usually a Windows box. But because this CAT data is available on the back of the radio, it makes it easy to interface other hardware and have it automatically track and do things. So let's talk about the company. Flex is in Austin, Texas. The radios are designed and built there, as I said, but we have software service teams in Austin and remote throughout the US, and I'm in Canada. I do the inside sales for the American customers. What does this really mean? This helps keep our costs down. And what does that mean? It means you buy a better radio for less. All radios today come with the current version. You get a current new radio when you buy a new radio. Say you bought a used radio from somebody and he was at version 1. You want to upgrade it to version 3? $199. Happens in a minute or two. And then you've got the latest, greatest radio that everybody else has. Steve and Gerald and everybody else have designed a radio that will be upgradable as time goes on. And maybe this is the last radio you buy, yet you still keep current with all the features and functionality. You don't have to buy the, the ICOM 756 Pro, Pro 2, Pro 3. So those are some of the strong features I really love. I get it. Every operator is different, and their focus is different, and their priorities are different. But I think you're going to find we're a good fit in most anything you do. And we're happy to work with you on what you need and how it will function. And that's why you can get us on the phone, or you can get us by email. We're responsive by phone, email, and even our help desk system for technical issues. And I hope this has helped you a little bit, so feel free to reach out to us, sales@flex-radio.com. You can always call us at 512-535-4713. And there's a couple of options there, 1, 2, and 3, that you can pick as required. And please, if you don't get us on the phone, leave a message. We do return voicemails. It's not a catch-all that we ignore. So, and thanks very much. I'm Mike, VA3MW.